This is food. This is beans.
Adrian, let's get right into it. Season 2, Episode 1 of HBO's The Last of Us has now aired on HBO, obviously. And we're going to review it here. We're going to do a review discussion. We're going to start with non-spoilers and then get into spoilers a little later. And so, I will ask you, high-level thoughts. What did you think of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1?
Yeah, Simon. So yeah, just I guess like a little bit of background here. I am someone that absolutely loves The Last of Us Part 2, the video game. It is, one of my favorite games of all time. I believe it is a masterpiece, and the way it tells its story in particular is a way that that I find incredibly impactful and perfect. I think with the start of Last of Us Season 2, as again someone that really loves the video game, I found this good. Like, I find this a good start to a season. However, me kind of coming in here with, I guess specific expectations on how this story has been told and how I want it to be told, left me a little, I don't want to say disappointed, but confused. I think they do some pretty substantial changes to how this story is going to be told, in particular with the first scene of this episode that really threw me off. And yeah, again, it just, for something that I'm arguably very, very, I don't want to say protective over, but something that I love so much in how it's done. Again, kind of threw me for a loop watching this first episode, but I do think it is really great. I think the casting is phenomenal. I think it looks really good. Obviously HBO comes in with very high budgets for their show, and they're willing to create something that looks spectacular, and I think this show does look spectacular. But yeah, I ultimately I think it's a good start, and that's really how I feel about this. What about you, man?
I thought it was excellent. I thought it was a great start for Season 2. I remember the game, sure. I think that they said they were going to do changes, and I'm good with them. I think it looks to be on a pretty good pace for the next 7 or next 6 episodes, I suppose. I think that, as you said, the production design is killer. I think the writing is killer. I think the cinematography is killer. Like the way, obviously, the production values for HBO are very high generally. The thing that I feel like I really like, though, is the pacing. I thought the pacing was quite good, and I thought it was quite exciting throughout. I thought they did a great job trying to throw in action where there maybe wasn't in the game in some weird way, even though the funny thing is I feel like in the game there's more action overall than like the first season of the show, as an example, because it's a TV show and it's not really all about the actions. You can really put drama in there. But I didn't think it was boring. I thought it was pretty exciting in the right ways, and I think they did a good job with that. I think the ensemble cast killed it. I think that the consternation about Bella Ramsey not being the right choice to play Ellie is stupid. And we've seen
Agreed.
This online repeatedly. It happened for the first season, and it's kind of happening again for some dumb reason. And I think it's just completely dumb. And I think when you watch like Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey play off of each other in this episode, it kind of just, I feel like, dispels that for, I hope, for everybody. Just because Bella Ramsey just did a great job.
I tend to agree with you on that. I think I was a little worried going into this season because of the trailers and how, this season takes place 5 years after the first season, like where the first season ends. And, looking at those trailers, I found that Bella Ramsey's Ellie did not look older. Like, I thought she looked like the same 14-year-old girl that she did in the first season. But as this first episode played out, I quickly realized I was wrong in that assumption. I think Bella Ramsey's performance in particular, how well she conveys that extra level of maturity while still being, kind of young and fun and wacky like her character is. I think they did a really good job kind of showing that, and even just kind of the outfits that she's wearing. And she does honestly look like a 19-year-old kid versus that 14-year-old girl that she was in that first season. But I do agree. Like, I think the way her and Pedro Pascal play off each other is great. I think there's a lot of impact in that.
Cool. Yeah, there's one particular scene I talked about production design.
Mhm.
that sticks out for me in the games. And there's just one scene in Jackson that really pulled me in as an audience member of the game, as a fan of the game, and as a fan of the game before the game even launched, because at an E3 event, PlayStation had put on this huge show where they had the audience kind of go into this actual location, and they pulled that location so well into this season, into this
Mhm.
episode, that I was like shocked. I thought it was great. The way it was shot was brilliant. It
Yeah.
made me feel like I was transported back to when I played this in 2020. It's
Yeah, it's
it's
almost a
crazy.
shot for shot remake of that exact scene in the
It,
game.
it's
Um,
excellent, and I just thought that the production design and the music in that scene, and the staging of it, wow, really great, just awesome. And I don't know, I did like the pacing. I know that you might not have, but we'll get into that as we get into
yeah.
spoilers. Anything else you want to talk about on the non spoiler aspect before we jump into spoilers
Um,
here?
I think the introduction of the new characters is really great. I think Isabella Merced, in particular, is incredibly charismatic and charming
Yeah,
in the role of Dina.
for
I think
sure.
she fits right into that role, and I think she's the standout in this first episode. And Catherine O'Hara being in this as well, and kind of her role, which is she's playing a wholly original character as well. That's not in the
Yeah.
game. And I find that sort of aspect really cool and unique. And I mean, I'm just a big fan of Catherine O'Hara in general. I think she's phenomenal. So it's nice to see her here.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah,
Yep.
no, the ensemble overall is it's really great, and they all fall into their roles just perfectly. It just
Yeah.
feels like they are these characters, and there's no one really. I wouldn't say they're not scene stealing because they're not doing a great job. They are. They're just not scene stealing in that you just feel like you're transported into that world as the
Hmm.
audience, and that's what I think they really killed it
Yeah.
on. Like that's the aspect that they really killed it. But yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, I thought it was excellent. Let's move on to spoilers now, Adrian. Just get
Cool.
right into it. Spoilers are happening now, audience. If you haven't watched season 2, episode 1 of HBO's The Last of Us, turn this off now. Flip that channel because we're getting into it.
Hmm.
Adrian, stalkers, man.
Yeah.
Stalkers are in this in this show. Which I'm particularly excited about. I hate them. I hate them with a passion when I'm playing the game. I love them
Yeah.
as a concept. Man, I love them as a concept. But in the game, they're terrifying.
Hmm.
And so stalkers, if you weren't paying attention, are that one scary enemy that kept stalking
Yeah.
Ellie in that abandoned grocery store in this episode. But they did a great job with this, and it's interesting how they seem to change the game in a way because they showed
Hmm.
stalkers as an evolution of the infected as a whole, which is
Yeah.
interesting because that's not really what it is in the game. They're an evolution of the infected, the initial runners, but and then theoretically they become stalkers and then they become clickers
Clickers.
in the game. But that's
Yeah.
not what they've done here. That council in Jackson, Wyoming is talking about the stalkers as if they are a an evolution of like the infected are
Hmm.
getting smarter, which is interesting. But yeah, I don't know if you have any
Yes.
thoughts on that. But yeah, just a great scene in general in that grocery store. I really loved it.
I agree completely. I thought it was very tense. It's creepy. I was watching this with my fiance, and when that happened, she's like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" She's like, "What was that in the background?" And she's like, "Was that a cat?" I'm
So
like,
good.
"No, I'm that's a stalker." And she's like, "Oh no!" And like just this, I could see the anxiety falling over her. And yeah, I think they did a really good job. I found it interesting because the stalkers are in the first game, so I thought that was kind of
Yeah.
missing in the first season of the show. I mean, they hold back on quite a few things in the first season of the show.
Yeah.
So I found that interesting. However, they do touch on, infected evolving differently based on the environment in the game, but not like this. So I thought this was a very unique way to do it and have it a little bit more, like seeing how the humans, the people that are running this commune essentially react to the news of, oh shit, like it's been 25 years since this outbreak happened, and now we're actually seeing infected evolve to a degree that is, something that they've never seen before. Intelligence,
Yeah.
arguably.
Right. Intelligence versus what we get in like a bloater, which is just long term illness, is basically
Hmm.
what that is. Like
Yeah.
bloaters are theoretically long term illness. This is a more intelligent creature. Theoretically, we might see smarter bloaters, smarter clickers, maybe. I don't know. This is
Yeah.
interesting. It is interesting, untreaded water so far, like on untracked land. We'll see how it goes. That's super interesting. But yeah. I thought the way I mentioned the pacing, I really liked it. I thought that the introduction back into the world with Tommy and Ellie sniping, I thought that was cool. There's just like these relationship building elements that they put in throughout the story in this episode that I thought was really great. But the best relationship that we see in this, obviously, as you mentioned already, Dina and Ellie. I think that Isabel Merced just killed it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I always like bringing up as well that Isabella Merced, she was cast in Alien Romulus as a pregnant character. And Fede Alvarez, when he wrote that, he based that character on Dina from The Last of Us Part 2. And he talked about how when Isabella Merced was cast in The Last of Us Part 2, how it was a full circle moment. How he created a character based on this character, casted this actress to play her, and then she was later cast as the character he based his character on. It's very cool that that happened. And yeah, again, I think she's incredibly charming, and the chemistry is there between her and Bella Ramsey. I think they play off incredibly well. So yeah, it is cool to see. The one thing I do want to point out though is I found it interesting the way they because they're showing this story more chronologically. And kind of revealing things far earlier on than what the game did. The first scene in particular, kind of showing Abby's group, who they are, what their intentions are, what their motivations are, is totally different from how the game plays out. When they're introduced, you just see them, you're like, oh, who are these people? Until kind of a climactic moment happens, and you're left wondering, why did that person do this thing? What were they aiming to do? Who are they? And I think one of the reasons I think this episode kind of threw me for a loop right off the bat is because they introduce this character, show their intention, and just kind of run with it right away. And it really threw me off. And I don't know if the payoff is going to be as good because of that, or again, if they're changing things even more substantially than what the game played out as. What did you feel about that? When you saw that? Because I thought that was it. Yeah, again, it threw me off.
I think the payoff will be different. And I don't think, I don't know. I think that's not a problem though. I'm okay with this. I want them to take creative licenses. I want them to change things. I want them to make it true to the overall story. The timeline doesn't matter so much to me. I've already played the game. I don't need the game again. That's unnecessary completely. So just do what you need to do, make it work. I thought this episode was paced brilliantly. I thought it was a great setup for a season, especially. It's a season of TV. You have to kind of set it up in various ways. I don't need it to be in an alinear way, like you seem to probably want from the game's history. I'm okay with this. I like this idea. It's interesting. Abby arrives. She gets there. You see her in the distance. It's an interesting way to set up a sequence, and I'm curious to see what happens next. We're not going to spoil anything here. We know what the game's plot is, but we're not going to spoil it for those who haven't played the game perhaps. But it's interesting to see where they're going to go from here. My prediction is the next episode will be a flashback within the 5 years. Actually, I think they're going to try to cover flashback from some side, maybe Abby's side, and then to show what she's been doing potentially, or they'll show what's been happening in Jackson in the in-between in that 5 year period. That's what I predict will happen, because they've got 7 episodes to go. And I think that 6 episodes, 7 episodes in total. And I think there's some big moments that we know about, obviously, you and me, and anyone who's played the game, of course. I don't think they're going to try to get to those big moments until some penultimate type situation. I think they're going to kind of wait. That's what I'm thinking will happen. We'll see. Who knows? But yeah, talking about this episode though, I think the Dina and Ellie, I want to go back to that dance scene, the church dance scene. I just thought the way it was shot, you mentioned it was shot for shot. They just did a great job. Gustavo Santaolalla is literally in it, playing in the band. He's literally there.
That's cool.
Playing the ukulele or the banjo, one of those instruments. I'm like, I did it in my mind. I was like a Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I was like, that's Gustavo. it's pretty cool. And like, he's the composer of the show, but he's also the composer of the games, and that's pretty exciting for me. I thought that was really cool because I think the music in this show and the music in the games is phenomenal. I really think it fits, and it's unique, and it's really neat for what themes they're kind of going for, and the feeling it portrays. I love that. But I thought that the church, the Dina and Ellie relationship scene in that moment, it's so close to the game, but it got me quite a bit. And then you combine that with the Joel and Ellie aspects of it, where he jumps in, pushes the dude who's being a bit,
he's being a homophobe.
And it's just, I don't know, it was just so, there's a heartbreaking element to Joel's character in this, and Joel in the obviously in Gail's office or living room or whatever. Gail, a new character, as you mentioned, and
Catherine O'Hara, played by Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah, but like the fact that Joel apparently killed her husband was like, we don't know about that. That's a flashback right there. They're going to get into that for sure. There's no way they're going to say that and then not do it, I feel like. So there's a lot there, but the best thing is like Pedro Pascal's tearing up in that scene with Catherine O'Hara, like Joel and Gail. So good. The acting is so good. And then him playing, oh man, there's just so many good moments in this that they really captured the game's essence. They did things out of order, sure, but I feel like they did it in a very great way. And I was like, are they going to do the dance scene right now? I'm like, are they going to do this? Because I love that scene. I love it so much. And they just did such a great job with it.
I agree. And one thing to point out about that scene in the video game, like it is one of the, I think it might be the last cutscene of the game, like where it plays out almost. So it's very interesting, again, that they're showing this scene at the start instead of the end of the story.
That's a great piece of feedback. I played this game in 2020. I don't remember what order it's in too. So it's not as fresh for me. I don't know if it would matter either way for me, but I will say this. The thing about it being the last thing you potentially play, this is like a scene in which we knew about before the game came out, which is a crazy choice for marketing on the PlayStation side. Before the game comes out, you show it at E3 years before at the E3 conference, and everyone's in the stage. They're there at the church watching in some way the scene play out. It's such a crazy way to market something when the game doesn't show it until the end. Yeah. It's so interesting. And then they're like, you know what? We think this scene has a lot of impact. We're going to show it right away, just like we did at E3. There's this like full circle moment that kind of happened in a weird way. I don't know. I don't know. It's great. I thought this episode was great. And yeah. I don't know. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I do want to kind of, talk about I guess what's to come in the season, because it's interesting how the episode kind of ends. It shows the pipe in the ground that they broke at like the start of the episode, and how it looks like there's like kind of spores coming out of there, like the weird spore tendrils coming out of there.
Fungus, yeah,
the fungus. Right?
No spores. We don't have spores yet.
Yeah, they don't have the spores yet. It's just
there was hinted at the spores though in that trailer. So maybe they will bring spores to this. But yeah, you're right. The fungus, because they have this, unlike the games, the fungus is kind of rooted in the ground, and then it kind of signals, and it has a communication network. I don't know how that's going to play off. But yeah, what are you thinking about that?
Well, yeah. Did you watch this season on Last of Us that it played after the episode? Did you see that? Do we want to touch on any of that?
Didn't see that. I hate that when that happens. Okay. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, you saw? I didn't see that. Oh, maybe it's because I watched it. I didn't watch it live. I watched it 5 minutes late, and I just watched
on
the
demand.
Episode.
Yeah.
I don't like when shows do that. I don't get it. Like, I don't need to be sold. I'm already sold. You don't have to sell me on it. I'm already watching it. But yeah, no, I didn't see that. I don't know if you want to leave that out or leave it in.
I'll leave it out. I'll leave that out for yeah. No, I'll leave it out. It's okay, because I don't think it has much impact. But yeah, it is interesting that they have that sort of fungus coming out of the pipe there. It's cool, like what's going to be set up. I like your idea that, the next episode might be a flashback. I think what the first season did best was when it deviated from the game the most. However, again, for me, this first episode, funnily enough, I liked it the best when it was the most similar to the game. So it is an interesting kind of.
You mean in
swap
timeline or in exact content? Like
in the exact content? Yeah. Like
so not the
yeah.
timeline of the content, but the actual. So like you like the scene at the church, but you didn't like that it was out of order.
Correct. Yes.
Right. Okay.
But I love that scene. It is very impactful. But yeah, man, I think this is a good first episode. I'm very excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to kind of dive deeper into spoilers as the season goes on and be able to talk about the game a little bit more as well and kind of point out more comparisons and why I don't like it. But yeah, I gotta unattach myself to what I love already and what has come before this and try to have that like perspective of this is its own piece of art. I'm gonna like it for what it is and try to enjoy it my best.
Cool. That's great. All right. Sounds good. Let's put our scores out there, and then we're done for this episode. My score is a 4.5 out of 5. I loved it like a lot. I thought it was great. What do you?
Mine
score
is a 3.5 out of 5.
3.5 out of 5. That's the lowest score you've given the Last of Us episode.
Yes.
Crazy. By a bit. Wow. Interesting. Yeah, there's definitely episodes in season 1 that I disliked far more. Okay. Interesting. Okay, man. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you, audience, for joining us. We'll see you on the next one. Either a numbered episode or The Last of Us, a closer look, season 2, episode 2, perhaps. Goodbye.
Take care.